They didn't hate you before. Not really. Maybe they even seemed like your biggest supporter. The one who cheered loudest when you talked about your goals. The one who said you've got this before you'd done anything to prove it. That support felt real because at the time, it cost them nothing. You were both in the same place. Nobody had to look up or down at anyone. Then something changed. You started moving. Maybe it was small, a promotion, a new habit that actually stuck, a business that finally made its first real dollar. Whatever it was, you felt it before you could name it. Some of the same people who used to be close started pulling away. Not all at once. Not with a fight. Just slower replies. Fewer questions about how things were going. A kind of distance that has no clear cause, so you start blaming yourself for it. You didn't do anything wrong. You did something worse in their eyes. You changed the terms of the relationship without asking permission. Here's what almost nobody tells you about growth. It's not neutral. It doesn't just improve your life quietly in the background while everyone claps from the sidelines. It puts pressure on every relationship built on you staying the same. Because as long as you were stuck, so was the comparison. Nobody had to confront their own choices, their own excuses, their own stalled ambitions, because you were right there next to them, proof that staying still was normal. The second you move, that proof disappears. And what replaces it is a mirror. Your progress becomes evidence of what they could have done and didn't. Most people can survive a mirror for a few minutes. Almost nobody can survive it for a lifetime, so they don't examine themselves. That would be too painful, too slow, too honest. Instead, without ever admitting it, maybe without even realizing it, they start examining you. Looking for reasons your success doesn't count. Waiting for a stumble they can point to, quietly rooting for you to come back down to where they still are. This isn't a story about bad people. Most of them aren't villains. They're just protecting the version of themselves that made sense when you were still standing next to them. But understanding that doesn't make it hurt less when it happens. And it's about to happen in ways you don't expect, because there isn't just one type of person who does this to you. There are three. And the third one is the one that gets almost everybody. Call the first type the comfortable comparer. You already know one, maybe several. This is the friend who never said it out loud, but who is always quietly measuring their life against yours. As long as the numbers came out roughly even, the friendship felt effortless. You complained about the same stuck feeling. You joked about the same lack of progress. That shared struggle was the glue. It made both of you feel less alone in staying exactly where you were. But comparison only works as a bond when the scale stays balanced. The moment you pull ahead, even a little, the math breaks. And once it breaks, something shifts in how they talk to you, even if the words stay friendly. Notice what stops. They stop asking follow-up questions about your goals. A year ago, they wanted details. Now a mention of your progress gets a flat that's cool and a fast subject change. They stop celebrating the wins out loud, the way you used to celebrate theirs. The energy that used to feel mutual starts feeling one-directional, like you're performing for an audience that quietly checked out. None of this looks like betrayal. That's what makes it so easy to miss. There's no fight, no confrontation, no dramatic moment you can point to later and say that's when it changed. Just a slow fade, dressed up as two people getting busy with life. Machiavelli wrote about this pattern 500 years before modern psychology gave a name. He understood that people rarely resent you for what you did to them. They resent you for what your success forces them to see in themselves. The comparer isn't angry that you won. They're uncomfortable with what your winning implies about the choices they didn't make. And here's the part that stings most. The comparer usually doesn't even know they're doing it. They deny it if you asked. They'd probably believe the denial. That's not manipulation in the calculated sense. It's self-protection running on autopilot, and it's aimed at you without their permission. But as uncomfortable as the comparer is, they're not the one who does the most damage. They just quietly step back. The next type doesn't step back. type stays close and uses that closeness against you without you ever noticing it happening. Call the second type the status protector. This one is more calculated than the comparer, even if it never feels that way from the outside. The status protector built part of their identity around being the successful one, the ambitious one, the one with the plan, the hustle, the 5-year vision everyone else in the group looked up to. Maybe that was an older sibling. Maybe it was the friend who always seemed to step ahead, first to get the good job, first to move out, first to seem like they had it figured out. For a long time, that role served everyone fine. It gave the group a hierarchy nobody had a question. But hierarchies only hold as long as the positions stay fixed. The moment you start rising, you're not just improving your own life, you're quietly threatening theirs. Not their life, their role. And people will fight harder to protect a role than almost anything else, because a role is identity, and identity feels like survival. Here's what makes the status protector dangerous. They rarely attack you directly. Direct attacks are risky. They expose the attacker. So instead, it happens in small, deniable moves that are almost impossible to call out without sounding paranoid. A backhanded comment wrapped in a joke. Look at you, Mr. Big Shot. Unsolicited advice that isn't really advice. It's a seed of doubt planted to slow you down just enough. Being left off an invite that used to be automatic with a shrug and it didn't think you want to come. You're always so busy now. Every single one of these, on its own, means nothing. That's exactly the point. It's not one wound. It's death by 1,000 small cuts, each one small enough that defending yourself makes you look sensitive rather than perceptive. The goal, whether they'd admit it or not, is to keep you tethered just below them, close enough to still be in the group, far enough that the hierarchy never actually flips. And if the comparer fades quietly and the protector undercuts subtly, the third type does something far more dangerous than either. The third type doesn't distance themselves at all. They get closer, louder, more visible in their support than anyone else around you, right up until the moment it stops being useful to them. Call the third type the sleeper. This is the one almost nobody sees coming, because everything about them looks like the opposite of a threat. The sleeper doesn't fade like the comparer. They don't undercut you in whispers like the protector. The sleeper does the one thing that disarms your instincts completely. They show you their loyalty loudest, right when you're winning. They hype you up in front of other people. They're the first to comment, the first to share, the first to say how proud they are, how they always knew you'd make it. It feels good. It feels like proof that at least one person in your corner is genuine. And that feeling is exactly what makes the sleeper so dangerous, because none of it is loyalty to you. It's proximity to whoever happens to be winning at the time. The distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. Loyalty to a person holds steady whether you're up or down. Loyalty to your winning only holds as long as the winning does. And the moment it doesn't, a setback, a public mistake, a stretch where things go quiet, you'll watch the sleeper's energy change almost overnight. The praise turns into distance. The distance turns into something worse. Subtle criticism, dressed up as concern. I always kind of worried this would happen. I didn't want to say anything before, and eventually, without you ever seeing the shift happen in real time, the sleeper becomes the person telling other people they always sensed something was off about you. This is the exact pattern Machiavelli warned rulers about more than any other threat they'd face. Not the enemy who declares themselves early, because that enemy is easy to plan for. The dangerous one is the ally who only stays an ally as long as staying close is useful to them. He understood that fair weather loyalty isn't a weaker form of loyalty. It isn't loyalty at all. It's positioning wearing loyalty's clothes. So now you know all three. The comparer who quietly fades. The protector who undercuts from just close enough. The sleeper who stays closest of all until you're no longer worth staying close to. here's the part that changes everything about how you see this pattern. What if the problem was never actually them? That question is harder to sit with than it sounds, because it's so much easier to just be angry, to decide people are fake, to swear off getting close to anyone again, so this can never happen twice. But that response protects your ego, not your future, and it guarantees you keep repeating the exact same pattern with the next group of people, because you never actually learned anything from this one. The people who go on to build real, lasting success do something different with this information. They stop being surprised by it, and then they start using it. Because here's what almost nobody tells you. This filtering process isn't a tragedy happening to you. It's a test you didn't know you were taking, and everyone around you just answered it for free. Every person who revealed themselves as a comparer, a protector, or a sleeper didn't become a different person the day they pulled away. They showed you, clearly, who they already were. You just hadn't been given the evidence yet. So here's the shift. Stop broadcasting your wins in real time. Not out of shame, but out of strategy. The moment people can track your rise step by step, they can position themselves around it, for you or against you, before you've even finished building it. Let people discover your progress instead of narrating it to them. Move in silence more often than you're used to. Second, pay closer attention to how people respond to your wins than to your losses. Anyone can show up for you when you're struggling. That costs them nothing, and it often makes them feel better about themselves. Watch it goes quiet when things go right for you instead. That reaction, not the sympathetic one, is the real data about where you stand with someone. Third, and this is the one people get wrong most often, don't confront the comparers, the protectors, or the sleepers when you spot them. Confrontation hands them a story where you're the bitter one, the one who changed and got sensitive about success. You don't need a war with them. You need distance. Qu'est un dramatique permanent distance. You don't need everyone to make it to the top with you. That was never actually the goal, even if it felt like it should be. The goal was never to keep the whole group intact, arm in arm, all the way to wherever you're going. The goal was always to find out early and at the lowest possible cost who deserved to stay this whole time. Every person who fell away along the way wasn't a loss. They were weight you didn't need to keep carrying past the point where it stopped serving either of you. And every person who stayed, who got louder in your corner instead of quieter, who asked more questions instead of fewer, who showed up the same on your worst week as your best one, those are the ones worth building something real with. Not because they're perfect, because they already passed the only test that actually matters without knowing they were taking it. Power was never measured by how many people surrounded you at the start. It's measured by who's still standing next to you once you don't need them for anything anymore. Once there's nothing left to gain from staying close. That's not a bitter way to see what happened. It's the only honest way to see it. The comparers, the protectors, the sleepers, they didn't cost you anything real. They just sped up a sorting process that was always going to happen eventually, one way or another. You just got to see it early enough to do something useful with it. So the next time someone gets quiet right when things start going right for you, you won't spiral trying to figure out what you did wrong. You'll already know. You'll just make a quiet note and keep moving. If this changed how you'll look at the people around you, there's more of this. How power actually works, how to read people before they show you who they are, waiting in the next one. So the next time you feel that quiet distance from someone right when things start going right for you, you won't spiral. You won't replay every conversation looking for what you did wrong. You'll already know what's happening. You'll just make a quiet note and keep moving. This is the same lens that separates people who build lasting power from people who keep getting blindsided by it. Knowing who someone is before they show you, instead of finding out the hard way. If that's the kind of thing you want to get better at, there's more of it waiting in the next video.